So I've decided to do The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger as my second college read and write book analysis. The Catcher in the Rye is a coming-of-age realistic fiction story where the main character is Holden Caulfield. The theme of this book is essentially Holden trying to preserve his innocence as he moves on from the last stages of childhood into adulthood. The story begins with Holden being kicked out of his fancy boarding school for a lack of trying in any sort of academics. Holden decides to pay his teacher, Mr. Spencer, a visit before he leaves prep school for good. This is where we get the first grasp of Holden's personality, because while Mr. Spencer is lecturing him, Holden is paying very little attention due to their philosophical differences. Back at Pennesee Prep, we're introduced to Ackley and Stradlater. Holden dislikes and is quite frankly disgusted by Ackley, but often seeks his companionship anyways. Stradlater has the appearance of a well-respected gentleman, but he really isn't. He doesn't appreciate the essay Holden wrote about his dead brother's baseball mitt, and he treats Jane Gallagher, a girl Holden cares for, as meaningless. After getting in a fight with his roommate, Holden decides to take a train to Manhattan. On this train, he meets the mother of a kid he doesn't very much like. However, when the mother asks him about her child, he lies and says that he is very well respected and humble. This complex lie shows that among Holden's other good qualities, he is also manipulative and deceitful. Holden then takes a taxi to get to his hotel. On the ride, he asks the driver where the ducks go when the pond freezes over in the winter. This shows that Holden is still childlike and very innocent, despite how deceitful and philosophical he is. After the failed attempt to make companionship with 3 ditzy dancers in the bar of the hotel, Holden decides to leave and go to another bar in the city. He hails a taxi and asks the driver again where the ducks might go when the pond freezes over in the winter. The taxi man gets irritated with him, however Holden is still curious, which means he is still childlike. After the disappointing visit to the bar in the city, Holden returns back to the hotel. A pimp asks him if he'd like to rent a prostitute for the night, and he agrees. However, when the girl goes up to his room, he sees her as much too childlike and human to actually go forward with the plans, and asks her to leave. Just a few minutes later, the pimp and the prostitute return and demand more money for the exchange, even though nothing actually happened. Holden is very terrified, however, he refuses to pay extra and stands his ground. This shows the part of his personality that we hadn't yet known, which is stubborn. The next day, Holden asks Sally Hayes to go on a date with him. She accepts, and to blow off time before their date, he decides to look for his little sister Phoebe in the city. While wandering around, Holden manages to do several things. He donates money to the nuns and decides to engage in a conversation about Romeo and Juliet. In addition, he talks about his love for the historical museum and how the wax figures are able to be looked at without being able to judge him back. Most importantly, Holden finds himself encaptured by a song sung by a little boy, where he thinks the words are, "To find a body, catch a body in the rye." When he does finally meet Sally Hayes, the date goes horribly, as he decides to insult her until she leaves. Holden then decides to get drinks with an old classmate named Carl Luce. Carl decides to bring up mature topics, and Holden can't handle it and acts very immature. Holden finally gives in and breaks into his own parents' home in order to talk to his little sister Phoebe. He tells her that he's dropping out of school, and she gets very angry at him, telling him that he doesn't even like anything. In addition, when he tells her about his dream to catch a body in the rye, she tells him that he misheard the lyrics and it was "if a body meet a body in the rye," meaning that what he thought the song was about isn't true at all. After upsetting his little sister so, Holden calls his old teacher, Mr. Antonelli. They talk about his expulsion, and Mr. Antonelli tries to comfort him. However, Holden gets very tired and decides to fall asleep on the couch for the night. Holden's final decision regarding his situation is to run away from home to avoid telling his parents that he had to be kicked out of school. Phoebe is very upset with him, however, she brings him supplies and clothes so that he can go. The final scene includes Holden watching Phoebe ride around the carousel as he reminisces about her childhood and innocence. Holden likes the idea of companionship and social interaction, However, as soon as he's able to interact with these people, he does something immature and childish to push them away. Perhaps it's for the best that Holden never did end up meeting Jane Gallagher, as he probably would have done something ridiculously stupid to piss her off and make her leave anyway. In regards to motifs, the red hunting cat represents individuality and innocence. Why does the red hunting cat mean so much to Holden? Well, I noticed while reading that his favorite people have red hair. Those would be Allie and Phoebe, his little siblings. Another important symbol would be the catcher in the rye song, more specifically, the lyrics Holden heard versus what the lyrics actually were. Holden hears catch a body in the rye. Meanwhile, his little kid sister Phoebe even knows that the lyrics are body meet a body in the rye. The song is about sex, however Holden rearranges it in his mind into something about children falling off a cliff and wanting to be able to save them. So the book was titled after the idea of an actual catcher in the rye. This idea of catching someone in the rye probably has direct ties to Allie's left-handed catcher mitt, which Holden keeps around. Maybe I didn't find the plot myself very interesting, however I could definitely understand Holden. Some topics I'm very hypocritical about, such as how Holden is very hypocritical about his hate for phonies while also being one of the phoniest characters in the entire story. While I definitely relate to Holden's story because of my age and my own transition from childhood to adulthood, I noticed that this book was banned from schools and that it was targeted at mostly an adult audience. And I was wondering why that is, because it seems like they wouldn't be able to understand what exactly he's going through unless they're thinking about their past, maybe. Anyways, this concludes my analysis for the book Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger.